I had one point when I was building the house on Kellytown, I actually had to crawl when I was using a wheelchair. I couldn't stand up until I moved, so.
Yeah, you gotta wiggle it out, stretch it out.
Katie coming down, do you think?
She is, yeah. This is one of those nights that the tunnel's open till 5. So she's staying till the bitter end.
Does that help? Like,
I think Kevin has been the most frequent user of the service.
It's funny, it's convenient when you go into a meeting
right,
at 5.
sure, yeah, do what you gotta do, right?
Alright, I'll be back.
Today somebody came in at 4:03, returning, I think, a license plate that they had like an old license plate that they
Yeah.
was bringing back.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. Guess it's not the end of the world. You're here anyways.
Yeah.
Like on Mondays or.
Makes it a little bit more hectic just because I'm Jesse. Both of us are doing the clerk stuff to prepare for the meeting, but it's something we know how to do. It's fine.
No, I've got 5 o'clock. Call the meeting to order today, Monday, May 17th, 2021. Roll call, we have Selectman Eric Eaton, Mackenzie Jewett, Kevin Buck, myself, Jamie Thurlow, Town Clerk, Katie Danduran, Town Manager Chris Saunders, soon to be Town Manager / Jack of all trades, Jesse Dunbar, and Howdy did call me and say that he could not make tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to dismiss Saudi from tonight's meeting.
I think it's excused. but
Excuse,
that's-
dismiss. It's like he's in the principal's office. Excuse.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Howdy Goodwin from tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Sounds like you kicked him.
Dismiss is a little harsh, right? Like, a little bit too much. Okay.
Adoption of agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change? Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from May 10th, 2021.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 10th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from May 10th, 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, approval of warrants. We have warrant 108 for $101,281.75, 109 for $10,074.53, 110 for $38,861.11.
Make a motion to approve warrants 108, 109, and 110.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve warrants 108, 109, and 110. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, committee appointments. We have an opening for a select board representative on the comprehensive plan task force. Anybody would like to sign up for that?
Yeah. As I said before, if no one else wants it, I'll do it.
Okay.
I don't think Kevin.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I don't have time
can't.
either.
I don't
have
either.
time.
Did we have one coming up because Mike is okay?
Mhm.
Gotcha. And Howdy's the other.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Talking to you now, not him.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
We gotta break the habit. It's gonna take.
Clearly I have issues tonight. That's right, right?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have time. Much
I
more
know,
time, but.
this is important, to find time.
Well, I'd make a motion to appoint Kevin Buck as a select board representative on the comprehensive plan task force with term expiring June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Kevin Buck as select board representative on the comprehensive plan task force with term expiring June 30th, 2023. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
I'll do it, I'm not gonna vote.
You're not gonna vote for it. Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel so special.
All right, financial reports. Jess?
All right. Let's see how this goes. These reports in your packet are from as of April 30th, 2021, which is 83% of the way through the fiscal year. In April, we took in just over $20,000 in property taxes, bringing us to 96.33% of what we budgeted, which is ahead of pace for all recent years. We also collected just over $40,000 in motor vehicle excise, which is also 95% of what we budgeted, which is well ahead of pace for all recent years. The harbor funds did see an increase as mooring holders continue to pay their annual fees and boat excise tax payments. But both of these line items may come in a little lower than budgeted for the year. They're both a little under where we currently are. Under expenses, the administration cost center is now just under 84% of the budget. As stated in last month's report, we do anticipate that the cost center will slightly exceed the budget by the end of the year. However, we're still expecting to have enough balance from other cost centers to cover that overage. In public works, we didn't have any major expenses in April. Overall, we're only at 56% of budget, even though we're 83% through the year. There was a repair to truck 1, which wouldn't start and had to be towed. There was an electrical repair done at an expense of just over $1,000. And under the general ledger, we received $3,062.77 in the municipal revenue sharing for April, bringing total year receipts up to $70,407, which is 111% of what we are expected to receive for the full year, and we're now predicting that we'll receive around $85,000. And then I've provided you a summary of the cash flow situation for the Wharf Fund, Harbor Fund, and the Seal Coat Fund. And other than that, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, I don't remember what the budget for next year did with the municipal revenue sharing. Did you keep it at pretty much what it is?
Was that the 78?
Yeah, because I know the legislature's talking about increasing it to what it's supposed to be. Anyway, yeah. So that might be a good one down the road.
It's
We
always,
base it off the past 3 years.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we use the threshold for how much to keep in the reserve account is the sum of the last 3 years,
Okay.
so that if suddenly it was taken away entirely, we'd have a buffer.
Okay.
But the appropriation out, it's a kind of complicated calculation. Basically, we estimate how much we're going to receive next year, which is identical to how much we expect to receive this year.
Okay.
You add that to the previous balance, you look how much higher or lower that is than your threshold, over your threshold. So if the threshold is $110,000 and you think you're going to get $160,000, then you have $50,000 to play with. Those are made up numbers. I can give you the exact numbers if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I'm just wondering how you're
Yeah.
projecting it, because I know it keeps increasing, and they're talking about doing more.
I'll make a motion to accept the July 2020 through April 2021 financial reports.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the July 2020 through April 2021 financial reports. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, regular business. we have the Municipal Review Committee. Jesse, do you wanna kinda give us just a summary of what's going on here, and then we'll take comment from the public on everything?
So, the town received as a member of the MRC, received a memo regarding a notice of fundamental matters or changes per MRC bylaws, an overview of the sale transaction and key provisions. A copy of that is included in your packet. And basically there's 4 matters or changes listed, which is also listed in your memo that I typed. And they're asking if towns want to request a special meeting to take a vote on those changes, to submit a request within 30 days by writing. You're not required to do anything. They'll automatically take effect if there's no special meeting called. The special meeting has to be called by members representing at least 60,000 tons of waste. Tremont's tonnage, for reference, in 2019 was 916 tons. And there has been, he included a summary article from the Bangor Daily News kind of highlighting issues, recent issues around it. And then there's 2 people here in the audience to speak to that if you have questions on it.
Would anybody like to yes, go ahead, Tony.
My name is Tony Smith. I'm the Director of the Board of Directors of the MRC. This is my 7th year. My paying job is Public Works Director for the town of Mount Desert. With me is Mike Carroll. He's our Executive Director. Mike has an extensive background in solid waste management. He's been doing a heck of a lot of labor, if not all of it, towards this sale. On specific 4 items, I would ask Mike to address those, give him a thumbnail sketch of them, and then you folks can ask questions if you like.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Okay, cool, super. So on the 4 fundamental items is the option 1 to purchase the land. In the current lease agreement, the MRC land could be purchased at the end of its initial term by Coastal Resources if the MRC decided not to extend the term. DET would like to see the opportunity come sooner. In this type of acquisitions, lenders want to see a path to ownership of the collateral. To obtain financing, DET needs to show that path in the agreement. This is just an option. They're not necessarily going to buy the land, but it's an option to buy the land, and it probably will be 2 to 5 years out in my estimate, because they have to go through a 9-month performance test. So MRC needs to see them run for 9 months without bypass, and 2 of those months need to include July and August. So we know it's not going to happen this year, and with the ramp up and some improvements they want to make, they most likely won't be able to get those months in next year.
Mike, if I could.
Yeah.
Those 9 months don't start the day the sale closes. There's going to be a ramp up, just like Fiber I did.
Yep.
Get the kinks literally probably out of some of the conveyor systems, do some performance testing, and then at some point.
They give us 2 weeks notification when they want the clock to start on those 9 months.
Okay.
Do you have anything to say about when the clock starts, or is it just their
Yeah,
call?
there's a timeline in the agreement. So
Okay.
we have put several things in these agreements over what we've learned in the past with Fiberite, but also some protections for DE, and we put that all online in the structure of the sale. We've negotiated performance bonds so that we can call on a performance bond if we need to step in. We've also negotiated that we need to approve the operating plan and changes to the operating plan. So that needs to be approved by us, which they have submitted, and if they make changes to that. There's several things that we've worked into this deal, like the 9 months, just to protect the members. Rebates is kind of something that we added in. The current structure on the rebates was based on Coastal Resources. Coastal Resources hit 16 million gross revenue. MRC's waste alone is just over 7 million, so there's quite a ways to go, even if that ever would have been accomplished. And with recycling markets, kind of like watching the stock market, relying on the sales of those, nobody really knew when that would be achieved or when we would get there. We really simplified that, where we had a chance to put out a new agreement, and basically we call it a share tonnage. They pay up $1.50 back to the MRC per ton that goes through the plant from the MRC waste. So it's a much simpler program, and it starts right after the 9 months performance. It starts right out of the gate. So there's no watching revenues or hitting gross revenue. Number 3 and 4 on the fundamental issues are kind of the same thing. There's 2 major agreements. There's a waste supply agreement and a lease agreement. The financer really wants to see the clock reset on those. We are a year and a half into those agreements. Those agreements started November 1st when we hit commercial operations in 2019. So that's the initial term on those agreements is a 15-year term. The lender would like to see the clock reset back on that so that they could get a return on their investment. Where we weren't 5 years into it or anything else, we didn't see an issue with that, but it is a fundamental that we have to put in. And that's all that matters right there. That's all for that recent notice of. Now on our website, we kind of tailor how the whole structure of the deal is working. MRC is being made whole again, so it's cost us some money to secure the plant, keep the permits idle, and so all that's being taken care of at closing. We've also worked with Waste Management and PERC on bypass costs. All that's being made whole again too.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Karen.
I think there's not a real obvious yes or no to this. Maybe there is, but I have a couple of qualms about it, and it's really up to you whether you decide that these changes are significant enough that you want to ask for the opportunity to vote. To me, I think it's kind of significant, and I would feel better about the ultimate decision if it was as a result of towns voting on it. But I don't know, Mr. Carroll, you probably know, are towns wanting to vote on this? Have you been hearing?
No, I was invited here, but I started at our highest tonnage and worked our way down.
Yeah.
We have 115 communities that we service, but we only have 84 contracts, 84 members, because some of the communities have transfer stations where several communities belong to that, so that's one contract. I've called, I'm up to 47 members that I've personally called, and they understand that the plant works, the plant was getting its diversion rate, it ran out of financing. It was 2 years of delivery. So what the plant does works, and it gets high recycle rates, and they are behind that. So they are behind seeing us do anything that we can to get this plant open. Remember, it's not our plant to sell. So we've been invited to the party, and we're doing everything we can to protect our members, keep the technology that's at the plant running. That's very important because the media is talking about DTE and their experience and all their plants. This plant here was designed by Fiberite and put together by Fiberite. Anybody walking into this plant is not going to have any experience with its technology. But what I will tell you we've done is we've made sure that we're getting people with industry experience, that we have a seat at the table for when the decisions are made, and that we're going to work with them on the ramp up to get the tonnage in there and make everything successful. The nice thing is the people that were working on the plant, there's over 30 of them coming back, and that's the high-skilled labor, the maintenance people, and the workers. And then DET had to share who they were going to have boots on the ground, and those folks that they are sending over here have experience, and their vice president of operations worked for Cavanta, one of the largest waste institutions in the world, and he will be actually moving to it. So we're trying, our mission has always been environmentally friendly at an affordable cost for our members, and that plant does this. So we needed somebody to come to the plant that could operate.
One thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot is, like Mike said, we don't own the plant. The bondholders own the plant. We had 7 original proposals for people interested in owning and or operating the plant. Those were winnowed down to 2. The second one fell by the wayside. We were asked to participate in the agreements, the contracts moving forward. And like Mike said, we have a lot of things in there to protect the members. The rebate system is very straightforward. Some of the assignments of a couple of the contracts have to be done because now they're between the MRC and Fiberite. Those have to be changed to be between Fiberite and TTE HM. Just if Jamie, you and I were in business, and Kevin and I, you left, we would have to take your name off the agreements and put Kevin's on. And in the run-up to this, we were all over. We were assigned different areas as directors of visits to a lot of towns, and one of the big questions that we ran up against from the naysayers was, it's not gonna work, the technology's no good. The technology's great, it works. And once they get up and running, and if you folks, anyone gives enough advance notice, you can get a walkthrough of the plant. And I've gone through that, and the technology works, we just didn't have that good of management on the ground. And we loaned them $1.5 million, the MRC, as a bridge to a $15 million one. At the 11th hour, everybody was happy, things were going to be great. At that 11th hour, that $15 million loan was withdrawn.
The major party of the plan is bondholders, and right at this time when the loan was closing, the COVID hit. And these people invest billions. This was a small portion of their portfolio, and they just put a hold on everything and was moving all their monies around, and they didn't close it. Or we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Yeah.
No, they were having some problems before that. I mean, they were way behind schedule.
Yes, that's why. So their war chest, I call it, basically drained. They went through 2 years of delay.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they changed contractors. They went from Chimbro to Sargent, and then there was a permitting issue. Then there was a lawsuit, and then of course the recycle market crashed for selling commodities for supply agreements. If bad luck was in the dictionary, their name would be right next to it.
And they were behind. The permitting process changed every now and then, to be polite. It was pretty difficult. So when we hear of this type of waste coming into the state, or that type of waste coming into the state, it doesn't happen just like that. It's a grueling permitting process. And that led to it was tough. The DEP is looking out for the state of Maine.
But the permits are all in place.
They're all in
that's
place.
one thing
Yes.
that we've done is we've kept the permits idle. We're on the permits. So we met with DEP on a regular basis, and they've allowed us for sort of, I have to meet with them once a week and give reporting once a week, but the permits are still in place, so there's no new final permit process or anything like that.
And when that plant opens, it is in conformance with those existing permits that are in hand, no changes. That's the way it is. And those permits say, we asked to have that in there, Fiber Right agreed, no importation of out-of-state waste.
The Delta Thermal at DTE's got some less than glowing press lately. I mean, you're pretty comfortable that that's.
We are, because our focus is on the here and today in this plan. You know, they have their own technology, they've had pilot plants elsewhere, but, and then they've had, you know, an advisory board a decade ago. We're talking about today, this Fiber Right plant, the plant we know. One thing that I can share with you is, we know they have the capital, and the nice thing is we're seeing more capital than Fiber Right had, but there's already a plant built and permits in place. Well, that's a lot of capital. They have a team of experience, and they have a good portion of the old team coming back. And then the controls we were able to put into these agreements with the bonds, the monthly meetings, having a seat at the table, approval of operation plans, that's the stuff you're not reading about in the media.
Yeah.
We do have a comfort level, but we don't have a whole lineup of people either to choose from. So that's why we negotiated so hard to make sure that we could keep the ship steered upright.
Mike must have a tough constitution. We would get good news on that case, and then some not so good news, followed by good news. But the new people will have the benefit of Fiber Right's learning curve. Fiber Right put together a 35-point profit improvement plan. They have the benefit of that. They have the benefit of what did work in that plant and what didn't work. As Mike said, they're well capitalized. I'm confident in the players. We've seen the resumes. And again, any 5 or 6 of us could go in there as newbies on that plant. That's brand new technology.
I guess I'm kind of new to
Yep.
everything here. What does this meeting that we're having here really say? Can you simplify it for the taxpayers of our community? I'm missing just a
This
little
meeting right here,
bit. Right.
per MRC bylaws, when any changes are made in some of the agreements, all the members have to be notified in writing. And there are 4 fundamental matters that are in the bylaws. Per the bylaws, we had to notify you folks. And the members can call a meeting within themselves. Let's say go down each issue 1, 2, 3, and 4, and call a meeting. In order to call a meeting, you have to have an aggregate of 60,000 tons. Like you folks were 916, we're around 1,700. You'd have to get enough tons that total 60,000 tons or more to hold that meeting.
Okay.
And then you could hold sway on whether, just vote on these fundamental matters.
Right. To see if
Yes.
they go through or not.
Yes, and they need to go through, or the deal can't go through.
Right. So it's. I guess what I'm asking too is.
Oh,
Is it are we being asked to pay more, or
Ticket fees don't, that's the one thing. This negotiation was very complex and it's been going on for over 6 months. And we've been in there, even though that remember we were invited, but even though that we only had one person to work with, we went in there with a pretty hard line on things, and that was another thing on the list, is that ticket fees don't change.
Okay.
So the way the contract currently works for our members is our members are locked in on their price for 15 years, and then there's 3 5-year renewals.
CPI per year.
And it gets an annual CPI every year, which is advertised at a government or federal level. I think to answer your question though is, we were invited today just to see if you had any questions on the fundamental notices.
Absolutely.
We're not asking you to
Yeah.
decide whether that's up to you folks. We were just invited down here just to see if you have any questions or present to you.
Yeah. Thank you. That simplifies it a bit for me.
My involvement in solid waste is nothing like Mike has, but I'm confident in the technology, having seen it when Fiberite was in business. I'm confident in the team they put together to move forward, and I'm looking forward to the sale closing and moving forward.
That's supposed to be next month, isn't it?
Yeah, so what it is the fundamental notices time end in a couple of weeks. But as I said, I've been calling all the members, and I don't really foresee that anything's gonna happen there. And then DTE has sent all the agreements, we're done with the negotiations on the agreements, meaning everything that I just went over with you folks. That's with their financer, and their financer will probably have it for a couple of weeks. They've been out a week now, and they'll come back with any questions that they might have, or anything that they might like to see added. It'll be very hard for them to make changes, of course, because if there's any fundamental changes, then the notice has to go out again, and the clock starts all over again, and I'm sure that's gonna deter them from making too many changes, because they wanna get this deal done too.
Carrie, yes, you.
I agree with actually all of what they're saying. The plant does work. There are, unless you sort of know the various things that happen in the plant, you don't realize that there was so much that was beyond your control, like the recycling market collapsing, and not being able to having products but not being able to get the permits to allow them to sell them, so then they end up paying for them to go to a landfill instead of having it be revenue coming in.
Yes.
There were a whole series of things that really were beyond their control, and the plant really does have the ability to do what it was meant to do. So I don't have any quibble with all of that. It doesn't sound like probably there is going to be a town vote on this issue. The parts of it that just bothered me were that this has been going on for a long time. DTE has known from the beginning that the contract went to 2034. They've known since the beginning that they were leasing, the land. And so then at the last minute they want, extra, and that just didn't sit real well with me in terms of looking at that. And it's really, in terms of your thinking, does it matter to you if the contract goes to 2036 or 2034? That may not. That may seem like who really cares if it's 2036 or 2034, but we don't know, a lot could happen in the waste world between now and 2034. When 2034 comes along, maybe we have some other opportunities we'd rather pursue. And so, that's the kind of thought process that I was going through. It's not up to me to tell you what your opinion is. And it doesn't sound like this would be a vote anyway, but that's, and I also, and I wonder if Mr. Kell has anything to say about this. It seems to me that with the MRC owning the land, that gives the MRC more leverage and more control of the situation. And if they own the land and the plant, they could just tell MRC that, you're not welcome here. I just,
No, doesn't matter.
This is so to answer a couple of your questions, this is a multi-million dollar deal, and it's a private, it's not a nonprofit or anything, and that's their negotiations. They're just negotiating, and they're negotiating hard. These people are getting ready to spend millions.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, there's a balance here too, when we're talking to the bondholder trustee. You're absolutely right, we own the land, and we don't have to honor a lease. But this is a big headache to a bunch of people that are just have millions of dollars with investments that in a sale process, they could make one phone call and dismantle this plant because everything's brand new, and it would be so much easier for them than going through this whole process. The plan is, the nice thing about Fiberite is the nice thing about selling this plant back for this, Fiberite didn't have factories or weren't machines or anything. They didn't make this stuff. It's all bolt-on, what I call bolt-on. It was bought off the shelf, but they have the proper placement of it and the proper programming and speeds of it. And then, of course, their big claim to fame was the pulp. So everything that was getting pulled out of that trash, that even if you were doing curbside recycled, your greasy pizza box or your ripped up junk mail was getting made into pulp. That's what made the diversion so high. So much pulp was being made. So at the end of the day, the balance is we could say something like, we want you to find another buyer because we're not going to honor the lease to BTE. I guarantee you they would pull this plant out of the mouth. This plant cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain it, to keep it going. This winter was ridiculous. And like I said, we don't have a lineup of buyers around the corner. They will dismantle this plant if we don't close this deal. I strongly feel that.
Yes, upon extending the term of the lease, DTE feels they were in the same position Fiberite was in when they began operation of the plant, looking ahead to a 15-year term. That way they can plan their long-range plan. They have quite a number of short-range plans for the 15 years. Same on the lease. The dismantling of the plant. And like I said, the bondholders could just as easily have gone in. The equipment, even for junk steel, the equipment in that plant is worth in excess of $15 to $20 million. They could junk it and then leave an empty building, and we're wondering where's our garbage going to go tomorrow as they're dismantling it today. And the pulp as a product, like Carrie said, they had pulp ready to go, but instead of being able to sell it, they had to landfill it. So that's a double hit due to some permitting issues. They had a client, prospective client, to buy the materials in Canada, but when COVID, and they had a meeting scheduled to come to Herman, and when COVID started shutting down the airports and the cross-border travel, that meeting was canceled and everything was put on hold. It was like the perfect storm for garbage.
So just to reinsure you though, we received our pulp permit, so we need another permit, it's called beneficial use permit. We received that permit because I was there every day. We received that permit in the middle of May, just before we closed. So now pulp, it was going to landfill, but it was being used as cover. All landfills have to have a cover. So it wasn't going to landfill as an SW, it was going as a cover. But that permit's in effect now too, so pulp can be sold right out of the gate. There is a beneficial use permit. That was issued like the middle of May and we closed last week.
It was, I'm sure it was frustrating for people on the outside trying to look in. I've never been involved in form like this one. And I'm sure when Exxon Mobil became Exxon Mobil, Exxon and Mobil were negotiating behind closed doors. That's private. This is public, but there are some things that we just could not share. Confidentiality agreements.
I wasn't with the MRC in the beginning, but the MRC was the beginning of PERC also. And my understanding is the first 3 or 4 years that PERC went up and going, it's changed hands a couple times. There was a couple of closures. It's just, I hate to say it, but it's the nature of the beast when there's just so many parties involved. It's so much money flowing through everything. Like I said, the nice thing is we got to run the plant for 6 months. We know it works. And everything's there still.
PERC's growing pains resulted in the MRC being formed. That's one of the things that came out of it. And the rebate structure and a seat at the table. Back then with PERC, it was formal. Here it's formal, but we own the MRC owned approximately 25% of PERC at one point. So we had input on the tipping fees, somewhat on how business was conducted, and Mike will be, I'm assuming, our person on the board, and was just address things as it comes to breaking down.
What are the tipping fees again? What are they gonna be?
$72.28.
72
But
times.
also, right now, I mean, it's for a few years, so right now, there's a $5 rebate that we send out quarterly, but then there's a $1.50 we also charge them to. So, right now, in the wash, high 60s.
Mhm.
And
And
that's a very good point, because I'm from the landfill and the incinerator and waste processing world, and I was from a company, a very large company, we did a lot of acquisitions. The first thing we did was buy everybody in a certain amount of radius, and then we raised the tipping rate.
yeah.
If we don't get another plant going, I am very fearful of where the tipping rate will go, because you'll see 3 to 5 year contracts either from the processors or landfill. They're not gonna go much longer than that, but I hope that the tipping rate starts around 85 and gets as high as 110 over the next 5 years if we don't get this plant going.
And a big plus to the group, the MRC, with 115 members, is that's 112,000 tons that someone like Fibrite DTE has a contract that we will provide that to them. Oh Lord, where was I going? The gray roots are getting deeper.
Now, some of the landfilling rates are a lot higher than that, weren't they?
Some of the landfilling rates.
Yeah.
Tip fees, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that, yes,
Yeah.
they're, yes. I mean, I don't know what it's, see, the way I look is we're like a co-op or a, you know, we're the guaranteed business, and then what Fibrite can bring in is a benefit to our members, but that's how they're told, is the plant can do so much more than what we can provide, and that's gonna be what, you know, that's gonna be the problem business. We pay the bills, we keep the lights on. We did before, but there was 2 years of delay, so the waste wasn't going there. Now the waste, there won't be a bypass, you know, there's no building or structure to be put in.
What do you guys think?
Still sounds like the best option to me.
And like
Yeah.
I said, we were just invited to explain.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
We weren't looking
How it
for
works is you would call me or we'd send a letter to the president and we would keep in track of it. As of today, nobody has sent anything in. You know, and we'd let you know if they do. And I highly recommend if there's any more questions, it goes into a lot more detail on the website on exactly how the MRC is being made whole. We talk a lot about the performance bonds and how those, you know, what the dollar amount on that, how that works.
payment performance bonds total $2 million. So if need be, we can call those bonds to get help, just like a construction project, pay the bills. If you do have questions, Chris knows where to find me, Jesse probably does too, and Mike as well.
I don't think we have, doesn't sound like much choice. I mean, if you had 7 prospective buyers or potential, and then you're down to 1, and if we don't support it, then there's a chance that,
Nothing.
yeah, then there'd be nothing, and, there's a chance there could be nothing.
Or even higher rates.
Yeah, and if it goes to a
Yeah,
landfill,
to
then
the
we'll see
landfill,
the
yeah.
landfill,
Yeah.
and I understand, Gary, what you have said in the, the terms and stuff, and with a new owner, it is challenging, but I think, I don't see we have much decision, much choice on it.
Right, yeah.
No, it
Yeah.
sounds like you contracted an improvement over what it was. The only thing I was wondering was why they wanted the option to buy it sooner. But talking about finance, the financing and all that, that definitely makes sense, yeah.
They have the option to, they may or may
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I just didn't wanna see this plant sold, equipment taken out of it, and then lock the doors.
Yeah.
Well, the best part is they hopefully learn from
Yes, they've got that learning curve from
everything that didn't go well, and that's knowledge that can help us in the future, for sure. So.
And their person that will be here, the day-to-day operations is house hunting now.
He's actually moved his office, they don't have it closed yet, but his office got it.
DT has spent a lot of money winterizing the plant. Just keeping the water bill paid, different things paid. That helped me become more of a believer when this government might let us know they were definitely paying the bills.
So, Chris or Jesse, Chris is about, if you, yeah. So if we did support the effort, what would you like for a motion, or is there, I'm trying to think of how this is set up, what we would need for a motion here.
Sounds like we don't need to do anything unless
We
they
have to
want to
do
have a
nothing.
meeting.
Unless we
Yeah.
want to hold it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get that right.
Right, to hold it to a vote, or
Okay.
No motion would be required.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I like it.
I'm in favor.
That's what I think too.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah,
for
thank
taking the
you.
time to come out and educate us on everything and bring us up to speed on it.
I think Chris is the only manager that I've not attended a meeting with. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
I'm giving you a card, can I approach him, please?
Yeah.
I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. This has been a really long, painful process.
Thank
Mike's hair was black a year ago. Thank you. Glasses and masks.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
have a
you.
good
Any
night.
questions, please email it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Next item is the Island Explorer, and I think I can summarize this one for the most part. There's been a suggestion that wants to be brought forward to the Island Explorer. Is that correct, Jesse? To do a route in the, we'll call it the backside route, Southwest Harbor, Tremont, and in that area, just to shuttle people around from Southwest Harbor, like to the lighthouse and various park areas.
Right, yep. Alan Foyer, on behalf of the Southwest Harbor Tremont Chamber, contacted me a week and a half or so ago. And he came in with another chamber member with their proposed route and signage, and as detailed in your memo, they're looking to get support from the town of Tremont and town of Southwest Harbor, and then the park, and then present those letters of support to County's Transportation to see about getting this route for this season. And Alan is here tonight to go over it with you if you have any questions.
We did have a route. What happened? They just
They just canceled the route for this season.
COVID.
go.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe due to their capacity limits on the bus, they felt it was too far to come all the way from Bar Harbor over here with that number of people
Gotcha.
on the bus.
Please get the bus.
Yeah.
Get the bus.
I know. That's the
Are
first
they-
thing
Yes.
With current conditions, are they willing to do that now, where things have changed, or have you discussed it with them?
No, we haven't approached them yet, so.
Okay. Yeah, it sounded like,
One step at a time.
Okay, it sounded like they're concerned about getting drivers too, something I read. So this is something, the plan is to see if we can talk them into it. Okay, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
We haven't specified the number of buses, but even one bus, I think, could work on this route.
Mm.
2 buses might be better, just to allow us to maybe expand slightly the route. But to be honest, this is, the bus from Bar Harbor benefits people on this side somewhat, people going to Bar Harbor, but this will be a complete benefit for Tremont and Southwest Weather. So I think it's something that would be great to have even in normal times personally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think
Yeah.
especially with our lighthouse parking issues we've had, and also, I mean, obviously everyone's heard or predicting that this is going to be a over-the-top year with visitors. I think even if they'll give us 1 bus, it's better than no buses. So more power to you. Try do whatever you can. Yeah.
Where do we sign?
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that I saw is season-wise, is it gonna affect the school parking? Because that's what we're gonna use for the parking lot, that dirt parking lot, I assume, on the side.
Mhm.
Is that gonna affect, the kids coming in and out of school? How much traffic are we thinking that the bus is gonna be carrying around here? Do we have any projections? I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just, if it interferes with the school too much, that could be an issue.
Mhm.
They've
That's the only
always
thing.
left a bus in that parking lot, though, haven't they?
That is the traditional stop for the Island Explorer. I don't think they've determined whether this would run the length of the season that one does. And I'm not sure if that one serviced Tremont right through October, like all the routes or not. But I have spoken a little bit with Jandria about the possibility of it, so they're aware and ready to work with the town or with the bus and making it happen.
There is also room across from the the bus garage out there too, like where they keep the floats.
Right.
We could also maybe use some of that in lieu of out front. That's normally just float storage. Well, that time of year there shouldn't be. I don't think any.
Right.
Justin was here asking, but I don't think there should be any floats there. So that might be an option too to help.
Yeah, I guess
alleviate some of it.
it's really just see how it goes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, see how many people are actually parking down there, and if it gets overwhelming, then look at it from there.
The bus didn't do the seawall route before, did it, when it was running this side?
Yeah, it did do that. But
Did it? Okay.
it would go down Shore Road in Nanset, and we're proposing not to do that right now.
Okay.
Trying to keep the cycle time short enough that 1 bus could solve it.
Yeah.
If we had multiple buses, then we might want to include Shore Road, and we might want to include Bernard, which is part of the traditional route. But that's not what we're proposing at the moment.
Okay.
Just anything to help. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think this summer's going to be interesting.
This is gonna
It's already getting
it's
interesting.
already. I'll make a motion to request the town manager to submit a letter to Downey's Transportation stating that the town supports the proposal for Southwest Harbor Tremont Island Explorer bus route.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to request the town manager to submit a letter to the Downey's Transportation stating that the town supports the proposal for the Southwest Harbor Tremont Island Explorer bus loop. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you.
Great.
Yeah,
thanks,
good
Sean.
luck.
Alan, would you mind writing a letter that expresses what you want to express and send it over to us, and if it conforms with what the select board just discussed, then I can sign it and then send it off.
I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I can send it to,
Man,
send it right to you.
yeah, we've emailed before, so I think
Yeah, I have those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, next is school zone flashing lights. We had a resident, Jed Campbell, who's here, requested the discussion about installing flashing red lights, or flashing lights, sorry, not red lights, on either side of the school zone. I'll say right off from the bat that I think that's a great idea. I think I mentioned it a while ago too, that I thought of the same thing, and like Southwest Harbor has on just either side of I don't know how many feet you have to be either side of it, but it reminds people to slow down, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead. If you
that's what I want.
yeah.
But people know it's 15 miles an hour.
Yep.
Go down.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's people definitely speed through there, and speaking with people that see the kids come in and out of the school and stuff, they have concerns as well about the safety of the children in that area, riding their bikes to school and whatnot. So there's a couple sharp corners there, and there's not much room. There's more room there than there used to be with the sidewalk and everything. That's great, and
Yeah.
but that's still, just like everywhere else, they really crack down on that 15 mile an hour, and I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
No, and I think that if they, as long as the flashing light is accurate, because I know a lot of towns is not. So
Southwest, it's
if
tricky
it,
sometimes.
say school starts at 8 o'clock, if it started at 7:45 and shut off at 8:50 or 8:05 or whatever, however the
Yeah.
time works,
Yeah.
just so it actually is on and off during those times, and not just flashing all day, because then people ignore it, and then it defeats the purpose. But if it's accurate, I think a lot of people don't even pay attention. They're like, oh, whoops, I was going a little too fast. They see that, so
Right, and as
I'll
soon as
remind
the
them.
first guy slows down, then other people are they start to notice a bit
Yep.
more. And we're talking about the lights on the sign, not an overhead light. Is that what we're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, just those flashing ones on
Yep.
on a sign that says whatever. You're going to Southwest that has it there. I mean, to pay attention all the time.
Right, school zone, 15
Yeah.
miles an hour.
Yep.
What is the light on the thing that's out there now? Is that just for the crosswalk?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there any feedback on that? Anyone, is it working? Is it an annoyance? I know one day it was on forever. It's bright.
I think that what you just described though is going to be one of the hardest things to keep consistent, because if the school has an early release day, then that changes when the lights need to go off. And so there has to be someone locally who is monitoring it. And just from experience, there's going to be days that are missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it be something that I know we're just preliminary, but I don't know how they operate. Whether you can just do it from your iPhone or whatever, you can program it. But if you looked into one, maybe that Jandria or someone at the school could do, because they know the schedule. And
I'll tell Jandria that you're the one who's.
Well, it's like the sign, right? I mean, she can do the sign probably from.
I don't know who. I doubt that Jandria. First, I would guess that someone else at the school is,
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
is
Sure.
handling.
Maybe
the sign.
not her. Yeah.
So maybe Susan in the office.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
This is if this is something you want us to pursue. These are the types of questions that Jesse and I need to go take back
Yeah.
and figure out.
Yeah.
From what I know, the ones in Southwest, you control on the sign itself. There's a box at the bottom of it that unlocks.
Oh, so somebody
I
actually has
believe
to
you
go.
can go out to the sign and make the change.
So when there's a snow day and it's
Yeah.
dreadful
You know,
weather.
I would think they could just have a timer in the office.
Yeah,
You just,
I'm sure there's multiple.
yeah, just with some kind of a remote. If you could do something like that, you turn it on, it's got a timer, it shouldn't get left on as long as the timer works.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that would
Yeah.
be pretty good.
I wonder, probably haven't looked at how much it costs at all yet. So.
It's gonna take some time before Jesse and I put in a bunch of hours into figuring out, answering all these questions. We wanted to make sure this was something the select would want.
There's not even a sign that says 15 miles an hour when children present or anything, is there?
There are hours. There's a sign that says 15 miles an hour, and then I think it actually has 8 to 8:15 or specific hours.
Literally this big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's why I
That's
missed
true.
it. And I mean, I've seen them that just say 15 miles an hour when children present too.
I think it actually has hours on it.
Yeah, but I know they do
Yeah,
some
yeah,
that do
yeah,
that.
And so those hours are obviously inaccurate on days when.
I guess maybe just if everyone likes it, look into
Take
it,
a
see
look
what it's
into
gonna
it. Sure.
take, right?
Yep.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to request the town manager to research installing flashing lights for the school zone.
Second.
been moved and seconded to request the town manager to research installing flashing lights for the Tremont school zone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Next, we have the Wharf House. I know we came up in discussion before there, and it's just another thing that it keeps haunting us. Yep. Chris?
Can I just jump in on one thing? I'm sorry.
Yes.
But Mel called me today.
Okay.
He apologized he wasn't able to make it tonight. But he wanted to make sure that you were aware, something that we should have included in the memo, and that's my fault that it's not in there. That the Harbor Committee did pass a motion back at the February 25th meeting, requesting that we look into demolition of that building, what the cost would be. They weren't recommending demolition, they just wanted to get some of that information. And Justin had started to go down that road, but I think, at the time there was the contractor who would do that was so busy that the idea of even providing a quote for something that was so speculative wasn't something that they were willing to do at that time. If that is something that you want to pursue, then we will be more dogged about getting some quotes. But in any case, he just wanted you to know that discussion had occurred in the last few months of the Harbor Committee.
And the Harbor Committee doesn't have any other suggestions what we might...
It was, when the motion was to explore it. When I talked to Mel today, I think his personal, and I hate talking on behalf of someone else, but I think his personal is tear it down, put some grass in there, expand the parking, and call it a day.
And I think all of you have heard my 2 cents, except for probably Eric, but mine's the exact opposite, which is, we have a building that is there, it's grandfathered, we can use it, don't tear it down. Just my opinion, or put something back there, I should say, something that's useful. I just don't want to see another vacant lot like the Clausen lot just sitting there with nothing in it.
Right. I mean, there's free parking up on the hill too that, people can walk. So it's like, there's quite a bit of parking still that it's not ideal for everybody, but I don't know. My thoughts on it, I guess, would be a perfect harbor master shack. If it's completely, I don't know how bad the building is.
It's bad.
It's bad.
We toured it 3-4 years ago, and it was bad.
It's not worth saving.
So it needs to be torn down.
Yeah.
If it can't be repurposed. It needs to be torn down and rebuilt.
I think we've put all the love into it that we can at this point, and it's...
Do you want to take a tour?
I mean, it's been a while since I've been in there.
Yeah.
Justin said he would run me through there because I was talking to him
Yeah.
about
Bring a
it.
few more masks.
Yeah.
And boots.
I think we discussed looking into demolition a few meetings back. Anyway, after that suggestion, we decided, the way I feel is I don't have any interest in doing that until we know what we're going to do with the site. Because
Right.
anything we get for a price now may not be relevant by the time we make a decision anyway.
Absolutely.
So I think first thing we need to do is come up with some kind of a plan for it before we start worrying about demolishing it. Because where it's sitting, if we demolish it and something isn't done in a timely manner, it's not going to be an option.
If it's demolished, then we could put a harbor master shack there. Like, we've talked about a harbor master shack, we've talked about a garage, we've talked about bathrooms, I mean, but as long as we do it within the right time frame, we can throw something back on.
But making a decision on it doesn't seem to be a quick process.
Well, right, this is going on for years.
Well, there's
Right.
also the footprint issue, right? So, I mean, you want to keep that footprint because you'll lose it if you decide to go with a smaller building. So you could put a smaller harbor master shack in there, that was a lot less expensive than rebuilding that footprint, but then you lose that
You lose the
footprint.
space, yeah.
So it's,
The restrictions on it, if the use is a commercial fisheries use, such as our master's office, the restrictions are a lot less.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's no setback from the water versus the residential structure with 75 feet. So you don't have to worry about its placement being so close if you're going to use it for commercial
Yeah,
fisheries.
Well, I know we talked about it before and came up with a, really preliminary plan, and there's enough room for a two-bay garage and a harbor master shack sitting on top of it, and before building materials went
Well, yeah. Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have cost an astronomical amount to put up a shell that would do that. I mean, that's changed a lot in the last few months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good plan, and if you did it, you could put in some public restrooms and get rid of the porta potty on the dock and all that. And I think we could definitely do a little bit of an upgrade.
And I was looking and brainstorming about different ways that the wharf could bring in some more revenue, and it'd be hard to use that side where the shack is just because of the low water issue and all the skip tie-ups and everything. But potentially that you can get in there. Potentially you could have a hoist there and have another truck if someone wanted to bring another truck in, and that's another quite a bit of money that could be brought in for revenue there. Those trucks, they pay quite a bit. So just an idea.
Well, there's an option for
Use of the
recreational
space.
uses too.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
fees. I mean, there's a lot of options if you put in a little bit of facilities. I got friends at cruise. They go right by Bass Harbor because there's no facilities.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think our guest float's been relatively productive here in the last year or two, or all things considered. So that's a fairly decent source of income for the town too.
Is the foundation of that building also? We wouldn't. That would have to be demolished as well
Yeah.
because it's all dirt in there, isn't it? It's not a full
I
foundation.
think it was stone, I believe it was, if I
I
remember.
can't
when we
remember what
went
it
in
was.
there.
It didn't look great anyway.
We're not going in there.
The whole thing just needs
Yeah.
the whole thing.
So maybe we do look into demolishing it, just getting a price, because that seems to be what we have to do anyways, no matter what we do.
I still think it'd be better to make a decision on what we want
What
to
we
do
want to do
before.
before we,
Yeah.
would it hurt to get a price on?
Yeah, I think
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really matter.
I think if you did it as a package, if you come up with a plan, the only trouble I fear is that you tear something down, and then everybody sits and argues again about
What
what
are we
they
gonna
want to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and next thing you know, your year's up, and you can't build anything back
Yeah.
there. And that's my biggest fear.
And I
But
still
there
think
is,
you're
there's
right.
a,
We need a concrete plan before we
Yeah.
start.
A plan in the budget.
Yeah.
and I think before, Kevin had a really good drawn-up plan there, second-story building, the Harbor Master Shack up there is a nice building, but I think budget, finding the money was an issue. That seemed to be a conflict at the time. I even would agree with doing something super basic, like a two-bay garage, just Justin in one side and
Yeah.
a bay in the other side, and just a one-story. I know you could do a lot more there, but to stay on budget is what.
Something, the cost of the second floor is minimal compared to everything else.
Yeah.
I'd do it at the time when you got 2 bays. You could keep the harbor master's boat right there.
Yeah.
You could launch it any time you wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, in the middle of the winter, if you really needed it, it's right there. You could put it in the water, and you'd have a workspace. You could work on floats or whatever inside.
Yeah.
So
I think another argument in favor of what you're saying, Kevin, is the big advantage of Justin's current office, with its limitations that it does have, is that he has just such a good view of everything that's happening. And
Yeah.
he lives up on the second floor with windows all around. Yes, it adds cost, but that's such value.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, true.
Basically, it's one set of walls
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what it adds you to get a second floor. If I would.
Maybe if we could shrink the original, because we were trying to
Yeah.
use the old footprint, maybe an alternative, like a happy medium would be to shrink up what you had for an idea before a little bit,
Yeah.
just so that it made it a little bit more affordable to.
But I think what Jesse's saying is that you don't need to worry about the footprint at
Yeah.
all. Just
Oh, okay.
throw it out.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you want.
Yeah, as long as we
And
decide
there's
that.
not really a time limit either, if it's.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't
Oh.
think of that. Yeah.
That's
So you could build
Yeah,
it
so that
20.
demolishing it doesn't.
Say right now it's 20 by 40. I don't have a clue what it is, but just say it's 20 by 40, and then you want to build a 28 by 28, 2-story.
Mhm.
And then in 5 years from now, you decide you want to add a little bit onto it.
Mhm.
No
That's the
issue.
biggest thing.
Okay.
Because if you-
Like, could you add bathrooms down the road
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, the only issues become lot coverage, don't they? Yeah,
Mhm.
and I don't know what that lot looks like. Is the house on a separate lot, do you know?
No, it's on the same lot.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, you know. Hate to
Oh,
build
well,
it too
it's all
small.
paved. It's all paved though, so maybe it would be an issue.
You might have to stay within your footprint.
Yeah,
Lot coverage.
yeah,
But the only time frame is if it was a non-conforming use,
yeah.
which it is, as a residential
Yeah.
house, but it's already expired.
And I wouldn't
Its
want to,
use, so it
I wouldn't
couldn't-
want to keep it as a residence or reuse it as a residence anyway.
Yeah, it's a
It's
terrible
a
idea.
nightmare. It's a
Terrible
nightmare.
idea.
We could put a fire station there.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
And I think under the same conversation, I know Justin has said before that something needs, or he has agreed that something needs to happen with that, what I call the Clausen lot, the upper parking lot that's halfway up the hill, just to make it so it's more useful. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
a
in
mess.
the future, we should talk to the harbor committee and see if they're on board with it, but putting a little money into there, hiring a contractor to just make it doesn't have to be tired, but just make some actual spaces there and make some revenue out of it. Like, it's
Absolutely.
seven
Clean it up.
sternman permits, I think, last year. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't, it's not gonna cut it.
You know, it's a mess to park in and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like we're all kind of in the same direction, so.
So is it wait and see and wait for the money to get there, or what's the direction?
What if we had a meeting with the harbor committee to try to get on the same page? To see, to throw around ideas and that way it's not, it feels like that we did that once before because it would be like they would come up with an idea and then we'd tweak it a little bit and then it goes back and forth the time we do that. If we all sat down in a meeting and just had a meeting just for that, throw around some ideas and maybe by the end of it come out with a plan of some sorts to
So you could do that as part of the selectmen's meeting. Just
Yeah.
invite them to attend that meeting,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and if they showed up, great, then pick them up.
You know, the one thing I would like to have done before we do that is see about lot coverage. You know, just get some measurements and see what we're talking about is possible. Because that sounds like that's the only real limitation we might run into, and that would be good to know before a building gets demolished.
So we couldn't have a joint meeting, Chris, as far as so we had full attendance from them. So we actually got a
Well, I mean, at the harbor committee meetings, you don't always get full attendance, and at the select board meetings, you don't always get full attendance.
yeah, but I just mean like if they were asked as a group as the
Yeah,
the harbor committee.
I think that you could ask. I can reach out to them and ask them as a group to attend a selectmen's meeting.
Okay.
I think that's the best way, just logistically, rather than trying to schedule a date. Like, we know that you five are all available for all the selectmen meetings because those have been published months in advance.
Yeah.
And if we set a special meeting, now we need to coordinate your 5 schedules and their 7
Mhm.
schedules,
Yeah.
and that's more complicated than just. But if I reach out to them and they all say we're every Monday for the rest of 2021 is booked, then we'll take a different tactic.
Okay. So do you need any motion on that or just a
I think everything you've just said is not very controversial.
okay.
I think I need clear guidance. Yeah, got it.
All right. Next thing under regular business is the annual policy renewals. Jesse, any changes?
There are no changes
Okay.
from last year to either of them.
Do you want motions on each individual
Yes.
policy? Okay. Where are we here? Make a motion to adopt the general policies and bylaws of the Board of Selectmen as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the general policies and bylaws of the Board of Selectmen as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
I make a motion to adopt the property tax payment policy as proposed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the property tax payment policy as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
I make a motion to adopt the check disbursement policy as proposed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the check disbursement policy as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Make a motion to adopt the conduct policy as proposed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the conduct policy as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
And the fees haven't changed anywhere. Didn't see them. I make a motion to adopt the schedule of department fees as proposed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the schedule of department fees as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Next, we have a quitclaim deed. This is just a release for paid taxes. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to sign a quitclaim deed release deed to Ivan J. Walker Jr. for the property located at 137 Clark Point Road, tax map 4, lot 4A, since all assessed liens, fees, and costs have now been paid.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sign a quitclaim release deed to Ivan J. Walker Jr. for one property located at 137 Clark Point Road, tax map 4, lot 4A, since all assessed liens, fees, and costs have been paid. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, town manager's report. I don't know who I look at for this, so. Jesse, for that too.
So, this is, for the last week, since we had a meeting last week. Major emphasis in the last week has been researching the office paving project that was approved, in the budget at town meeting. I attended, the Department of Marine Resources stocking of Silco Pond with Maine Coast Heritage Trust. They stocked 1,202 alewives.
1,202.
1,202. Yep.
Glad we get those two extras.
Yes.
Stay after and we'll show you the video.
Yeah, there's a very cool video I took, that was on Friday. Minor projects of interest, Chris sent off the signed Hancock County Sheriff's Office contract, worked on committee appointments, notified the state on awarding the salt bid, attended the Downey's COVID-19 task force, researched the office paving, worked on the financial reports, reviewed comprehensive plan task force update, worked on the sign project, hoping to prevent further thefts of the town signs. And Chris and I have been reviewing documents related to the coastal model ordinance grant. We reviewed DMR's decision to approve the LPA in Mitchell Cove. Office staff, on the code enforcement side, I've been continuing to receive and process comments regarding the 2 pending campground applications, and finished up work on a small community grant through DEP for a resident on Bernard Road for their septic system. Chris and I have been preparing for the CEO hiring process. The town office staff has been following up from town meeting, doing oaths and updating the website, and following up on the creation of the sustainability committee. Katie attended a 2-day MMA tax collector training webinar. And in Public Works, they ordered the calcium chloride pellets for the dirt roads, and that was applied today. We did lots of mowing last week. Troy met with AC Parsons and Chris and I regarding the school flower planting project at the town office that's scheduled for next Friday, May 28th. Troy's been ordering more winter supplies for next season. Painted lines in the salt and sand shed. Truck 9 had a repair done on it, and they helped Justin knock down the grass around the wharf house. And the harbor master has been performing routine maintenance on the fish ladder, clearing out debris. He dived on the wharf chains, answered questions on moorings and Thurston's project, cleaned up the dock and parking lot, did mowing from the wharf house, removed the wharf house parking signs, and checked on the wharf house, helped Public Works load the sander with calcium chloride, and worked on getting a new control valve for the hoist. And over the next few weeks, we are continuing research regarding the paving project at the town office, attending the Downey's COVID-19 task force, attending the flower planting at the town office with the kids from Tremont School on the 28th, be attending the League of Towns meeting, and we'll be conducting a safety committee meeting on June 2nd, and I will be attending the MMA's new manager training on June 3rd.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Suggestions for the next meeting? Date of the next meeting?
Make a motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, June 7th, 2021 at 5 p.m. at the town office. And maybe we won't be wearing masks.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, June 7th, 2021, 5 p.m. at the town office. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion to adjourn.
Sounds good.
Okay, all those in favor? He said yes. That was.
Said yes.
You don't actually need a second on that one.
Oh yeah.